Last time, we looked at 5 of the fastest checkmates in chess history, but those were just the beginning. What if I told you there are even sneakier, even faster, and completely real checkmates that have crushed players in just a few moves? You sit down, you make one mistake, and bam, the game ends before you even know what happened. These aren't just traps, they're brutal executions that catch even experienced players off guard. So whether you want to pull them off yourself or just avoid becoming someone's next viral clip, here are 5 lightning-fast checkmates that feel almost unfair. Let's dive in, and trust me, you do not want to miss the last one. It's so dirty, it should be illegal. 1. Grob's attack, fool's mate pattern. All right, let's kick things off with a truly bizarre opening. Grob's attack. It starts with g4, and if you've never seen it before, there's a reason. It's rare, it's weird, and if played wrong, it'll get you checkmated faster than you can say, "What just happened?" In this example, white plays g4, planning to bring out their bishop to g2 and control the long diagonal. But then they play f4, pushing another pawn in front of their king. Looks harmless, right? But suddenly, boom, black plays queen to h4, and it's checkmate on move 2. Just like that, the game is over. A fool's mate, straight from the Grob. White's king is wide open, and their only job now? Sit there and regret everything. The lesson? Don't throw pawns in front of your king without a plan, especially at the start of the game. And maybe, just maybe, don't play the Grob unless you really know what you're doing. 2. Dutch defense, fool's mate pattern. Next up, we've got a trap hiding inside a legit opening, the Dutch defense. White begins the game with pawn to d4, and black replies with pawn to f5, trying to take control of the center right away. But that one move already weakens black's king side. White takes aim instantly by playing bishop to g5, eyeing the key dark squares near the king. Black tries to kick the bishop with pawn to h6. White calmly drops the bishop back to h4. Now comes the big mistake. Black plays pawn to g5 to chase the bishop even more, and white replies with a 4, after which black captures white's bishop on h4, thinking they've just won a free piece. But surprise, white plays queen to h5, and that's checkmate in just 5 moves. The king is completely exposed, and there's no way to block or escape. What went wrong? Black pushed both the f and g pawns way too early, tearing open the front of their king's house, and white didn't waste a second punishing them. The lesson? Don't launch pawn storms on the king side if your king hasn't even moved. And never assume a free piece is actually free. Sometimes it's a gift-wrapped checkmate. 3. The Italian game, smothered mate trap. Now let's talk about a checkmate that's not just brutal, it's beautiful. We're diving into the Italian game, a classic opening used by beginners and grandmasters alike. The game begins with white playing pawn to a 4, and black responds with pawn to a 5. Then comes knight to f3 and knight to c6. Nothing unusual so far. Next, white develops their bishop to c4, and now we're officially in the Italian game. But here's where things take a strange turn. Black plays knight to d4, a move that breaks a few opening rules. It's too early to move the same piece twice, and it leaves the center open. White snaps up the pawn on a 5 with knight, thinking they're gaining material. But suddenly, black plays queen to g5, and the tone of the game shifts completely. White continues with knight takes f7, trying to stay aggressive, but it's actually a huge mistake. Black immediately plays queen takes on g2, threatening multiple deadly ideas at once. White scrambles to defend with rook to f1, but black keeps piling on the pressure with queen takes on a 4. Now white blocks with bishop to e2, but that final move seals their fate. Black drops the hammer with knight to f3, checkmate. It's a smothered mate right in the heart of a standard opening. Proof that even solid games can spiral out of control fast. The takeaway? Never forget your king's safety, even when the opening looks familiar. One greedy move can open the door to a perfect checkmate. 4. England Gambit mate. Now this one is pure chaos. The England Gambit. It starts with black offering a pawn right from the first move with pawn to e5 after white plays pawn to d4. Aggressive? Absolutely. Risky? Very. White takes the bait with pawn takes a 5, and black plays queen to a 7, looking to get the pawn back. White plays knight to f3 to hold on to it, and black brings in knight to c6, piling on the pressure. White says, "All right, let's defend it again," and plays bishop to f4. But now comes the first twist. Queen to b4 check. Black is attacking the king, the bishop on f4, and the b2 pawn all at once. White blocks with bishop to d2, but black snags pawn on b2, grabbing material and eyeing that a 1 rook. White, trying to multitask, plays bishop to c3, strategy, protecting the rook and chasing the queen. But this move walks right into a deadly pin. Black plays bishop to b4, and suddenly the bishop on c3 is pinned to the king. White tries to patch things up with queen to d2, thinking they've held it all together. But then it happens. Bishop captures on c3, and when white recaptures with queen takes c3, they don't realize what's coming. Black calmly drops queen to c1, and it's checkmate. Just 8 moves, and white is done. This is one of the nastiest back-rank checkmates you'll ever see. White was so focused on saving material, they forgot about their king and paid the price. So what's the lesson here? When you're ahead in development, don't get greedy. Give the pawn back if you must, but never let your king get boxed in on the back rank. 5. Budapest defense, smothered mate. And finally, let's wrap it up with a deadly trick from the Budapest defense, a trap that ends the game with a clean smothered mate. It begins normally. White plays d4, and black strikes back with knight to f6. White moves pawn to c4, and black plays a 5, challenging the center immediately. White grabs the pawn with a 5, and things look quiet until they're not. Black develops with knight to g4. White responds by advancing their knight to f3. Then black brings out the knight to c6, after which white plays bishop to f4. Black throws in a check with bishop to b4. It seems aggressive, but nothing alarming yet. White moves their knight to d2 to defend the king. Black moves their queen to e7. Then white plays a 3 to chase the bishop, and black plays knight to e5, capturing white's center pawn. Black sets up a big threat, after which white makes a blunder, capturing a bishop with pawn on b4, thinking they've gained material, but white was doing fine until this move. Now it is all over. Black slams down knight to d3, and boom, checkmate. The white king is smothered by its own pieces, with no way out, and that's the downfall. Sometimes the flashiest checkmates come from solid-looking positions. Even one inaccurate pawn move can unravel your whole defense, especially when both knights and queens are in play. So there you have it, 5 of the fastest and nastiest checkmates in chess. From the chaotic Grob attack to tricky traps in the Dutch, Italian, England, and Budapest. We saw how early mistakes, especially with those F and G pawns, can lead to brutal endings. The key themes: weak F2/F7 squares, overextended pawns, misplaced bishops, and of course, smothered mates that feel like a punch to the gut. Master these patterns, and not only will you avoid falling for them, you'll start catching your opponents off guard too. Which of these was your favorite? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget, your king's safety is only one blunder away.